A prejudiced mother shoves and humiliates a young girl at the playground, convinced no one will intervene on her behalf. But her world shifts completely when the girl's mother arrives, revealing a truth that shocks everyone present. What happens next forces her to confront the consequences of her actions. Don't miss powerful stories like this. Subscribe to our channel and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Lily, a 10-year-old African-American girl, used to see the small playground in the park as a place that helped her forget all her worries. To her, it was a peaceful place, filled with laughter, free from rules or judgment. Every afternoon, Lily would eagerly run to the playground, swing as high as she could, feeling the cool breeze brush her face and the warm golden sunlight, casting over the familiar grounds. The steady creak of the swings and the joyful cries of the children created an atmosphere of pure innocence and freedom. Jake, a boy her age, was Lily's best friend. The two would spend hours playing tag, climbing, and exploring every corner of the playground, never growing tired of it. In their small world, Jake and Lily were an inseparable pair, sharing every joyful moment and playful mischief. To Lily, Jake was not just a close friend, but an essential part of her beautiful memories at the playground. But then, things started to change quietly in ways Lily couldn't understand. Each time she came to the playground, Lily noticed that Jake no longer ran up to her with the same enthusiasm as before. Instead, he seemed to avoid her more and more, his gaze turning distant and uncertain whenever he looked her way. At first, Lily thought it was just a phase in their friendship. Kids sometimes have days when they don't want to play together, but soon it became clear that something more serious was happening. Lily felt abandoned, though no one said it outright, and a growing sadness took root in her heart. The cause of this change gradually became apparent as Lily noticed Jake's mother, Mrs. Karen. Ever since she began regularly bringing Jake to the playground, Lily always felt the cold, piercing gaze of Mrs. Karen directed at her. Mrs. Karen would stand at a distance, arms crossed, watching with a stern, even chilly expression. Every time Lily approached Jake, Karen's eyes would immediately harden, as if warning her son to keep his distance. Karen never said it aloud, but her look and demeanor made it clear that Lily was not welcome there. One afternoon, when Lily tried to get closer to Jake, Karen's sharp voice cut through the cheerful sounds of the playground. "Jake!" Her voice was icy, barely hiding her annoyance. Jake stopped playing, looking back at his mother with hesitation, a flicker of guilt in his eyes when he saw Lily. "Come here now," Karen ordered. She glanced at Lily with a look of disdain before turning to Jake, speaking loudly enough for Lily to hear. "I don't want you playing with kids like that." Those words struck Lily's heart like a knife. It wasn't the first time she'd heard these kinds of remarks, but each time, it hurt just as much. Though Karen didn't spell it out, Lily understood that she didn't want her and Jake to be together for reasons beyond her control or change. Karen saw Lily as an outsider, someone unworthy of playing with her son. Lily's heart ached. She wanted to protest, to say something, but no words came. After a moment's hesitation, Jake finally turned and walked toward his mother, obediently keeping his distance from Lily. For a moment, his eyes showed a glimmer of regret, but he quickly looked away without saying a word. Lily stood there, feeling as if a shadow had fallen over her. She watched Jake's figure grow smaller as he walked away, feeling like an outsider in the place she once considered her paradise. As the afternoon light faded, casting a pale yellow over the park, Lily remained on the swing, gripping the chains tightly as if holding on to the one familiar, peaceful thing left to her. Other children continued to play carefreely around her, their laughter ringing out as if unaware of the inner battle raging within her. Everything seemed the same, but to Lily, the playground no longer felt whole. The feeling of exclusion, of being pushed beyond the bounds of the community, filled her with pain and loneliness. After a while, Lily stood up and walked toward the exit, her small figure casting a long shadow on the ground as the sun began to set. On her way home, she fought back tears, her mind weighed down by countless thoughts. She knew she couldn't share these feelings with her parents, at least not yet. Her father, a federal judge, had always taught her to be strong, to stand up against injustice. But how could she tell him that her friends didn't want to play with her, simply because of the color of her skin? She didn't want her parents to worry, especially when they were always busy and had more important things to handle. As Lily reached her doorstep, a sudden thought sparked in her mind, like a small flame of determination. She didn't want Karen to win. She wouldn't allow herself to be pushed out of this playground, the place that had once been her world. Lifting her head, she walked into her home with a newfound resolve. Tomorrow she would return to that playground. Though she didn't know what awaited her, Lily was sure of one thing. She would not give up. Not now. The next day, true to her promise, Lily returned to the playground. She walked in with a determined spirit, though still feeling a bit anxious and wary. She saw Karen and Jake were already there, and with just a glance, Lily could sense the tension surrounding them. Karen sat with a few other parents, her piercing gaze tracking Lily's every move. Every time Lily moved closer to Jake, Karen would sit up straighter, folding her arms across her chest with a look of displeasure, as if preparing to ward her off at any moment. The parents seated beside Karen remained silent observers, and though no one said anything, Lily felt Karen's influence on them. The playground, once a safe haven, now felt stifling, wrapped in an invisible wave of tension that surrounded Lily. But she didn't let herself weaken. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and tried to ignore the stares around her. She walked over to the swing, grabbed the chains firmly as if holding on to her confidence, and began to swing. The creak of the swing broke the silence, reminding her that this was still her place, the place she loved. But that sense of peace didn't last long. Just as Lily began to feel comfortable, Karen's familiar voice cut through the air, sharp and cold. "Jake!" she called loudly, deliberately making herself heard. Jake looked up, his eyes showing a flicker of worry as he glanced toward Lily. Karen's look signaled for him to stop playing and hurry over to her. Standing nearby, Karen glanced at Lily with disdain, then said loudly, "I told you, Jake, we don't play with people like that." Her words, loud enough for everyone around to hear, deeply wounded Lily. Although Karen's words didn't directly name Lily, the message was unmistakable. Mrs. Karen didn't see Lily as someone worthy of playing with her son, simply because she looked different. Lily's heart felt crushed, and she winced at this blatant rejection. She had hoped that if she stayed calm and didn't cause trouble, things might ease up, but now she understood that Karen wouldn't stop until she was driven away from this place. Jake hesitated, looking down, and then obediently walked to his mother without a word to Lily. For a brief moment their eyes met, and Lily saw an apology in his eyes, as if he wanted to say sorry. But Jake quickly looked away and followed his mother, ignoring the friendship and memories they once shared. Lily sat silently on the swing, feeling abandoned and isolated. Around her, the laughter of the other kids continued, but for her, the playground now held only the cold, lonely creak of the swings. A few parents sitting nearby glanced her way with indifferent or puzzled expressions. Some whispered to each other, and Lily realized they didn't side with her. They didn't stop Karen, didn't protect her. Instead, they seemed to agree with her in silence. Without anyone to play with, Lily quietly moved away, sitting down in a corner of the playground and leaning against the fence. She sat there watching the other kids play, feeling completely separated from them. Jake and the other children no longer sought her out. They looked at her with averted eyes or simply ignored her. Even some kids who hadn't noticed her before now began to look at her with unfamiliar, distant glances, as if she were something strange and incomprehensible. This only deepened Lily's pain. Lily sat there for a long time, her hand clutching the fence, her gaze distant. She didn't understand why she was being treated this way, just because of her skin color, something she couldn't change. She felt completely alone, the pain growing as she realized she had been shut out of this community, from friends to adults she once thought were friendly. Suddenly, a breeze brushed past, jolting Lily out of her endless thoughts. She stood up, dusted her hands off, and looked toward the exit. As she walked home, she vowed not to let Karen's words and actions define her worth. But her heart still carried a deep sadness, and once again, she didn't know who to share it with. On her way home, Lily felt the heavy weight of loneliness and sadness. She didn't know what she had done to deserve such isolation, especially from people she once thought of as friendly neighbors. In her mind, Karen's words echoed, her cold gaze and disdainful tone cutting like a knife, stirring feelings of shame and helplessness. But Lily also knew one thing. She couldn't stay silent forever. When she arrived home, Lily tried to act normal, so her parents wouldn't notice anything was wrong. She told herself she shouldn't trouble them with issues from the playground. Her parents were very busy, and she didn't want to worry them. Her father, a respected federal judge, always taught her that justice and self-respect were values she had to cherish and protect. But how could she tell her parents that other kids didn't want to play with her simply because of her skin color? She feared her father would be disappointed, and that she would become a burden in her parents' already busy lives. That night, lying in bed, Lily couldn't stop thinking. She remembered every moment at the playground, every laugh with Jake, the sense of freedom she felt when swinging high. She knew she hadn't done anything wrong, and the pain of being excluded was unfair. Karen's cold gaze, Jake's silence, and even the indifference of the other parents swirled in her mind like an endless loop. But then, in the midst of those thoughts, Lily realized something. If she gave up, if she allowed Karen and her prejudice to push her out of the playground, she would lose this place forever, losing the joy and freedom she once cherished. She remembered her father's words. Sometimes injustice will make you afraid, but if you don't stand up, you'll lose your self-respect and faith in yourself. Those words warmed Lily's heart, and for the first time in days, she felt she could do something to hold on to this place. Lily told herself that she wouldn't let Karen's words discourage her. Tomorrow, she would return to the playground, standing up for herself. She didn't know if she could change anything, but she wouldn't let anyone take away her joy and freedom because of her differences. The next morning, when Lily woke up, she felt a strong resolve within her. She looked in the mirror, telling herself she wouldn't be weak or silent in the face of injustice. She would return to the playground, hold her head high, and refuse to be driven out of the place where she belonged. That afternoon, Lily walked back into the playground. The atmosphere felt tense, but this time, she didn't let fear control her. She walked straight to her familiar swing, sat down, and held the chains firmly, feeling the light breeze brush her face. She knew Karen might bring Jake again and continue her hurtful words, but Lily didn't care. She decided she wouldn't give up. She wouldn't give up the joy that the playground brought her. Lily felt her inner strength was greater than all the gossip and disdainful looks. But that confidence was soon tested when she saw Karen lead Jake into the playground. Like a reflex, Karen's eyes found Lily, cold and contemptuous. That look sent a shiver through Lily, but she had promised herself not to back down. No matter what, she would keep coming here because this place belonged to her too. Lily sat still on the swing, gripping the chains tightly, trying to appear calm. But almost immediately, Karen walked over, her steps brisk and determined, her face full of anger. Stopping right in front of Lily, she stood tall as if to block her presence. Jake quietly stood by his mother, his gaze hesitant as he saw Lily but didn't dare to come closer or speak up. The air seemed to tighten, and Lily could feel the tension surrounding her. Karen looked Lily up and down, and with a cold voice, she spoke loudly enough for everyone around to hear. "Lily, I told you, you don't belong here. This playground is for other kids, kids who don't cause trouble. Go somewhere else." Lily took a deep breath to steady herself. She looked straight at Karen, her eyes filled with determination, and although her voice was gentle, it was clear. "I have the right to play here like everyone else. I haven't done anything wrong." Lily's response left Karen momentarily stunned. She hadn't expected Lily to stand up to her, but immediately, Karen's expression shifted, becoming angrier and more intense. She moved closer to Lily, her voice filled with contempt and firmness. "Do you think you have the right to be here? You're making the other kids uncomfortable. People like you should know to go somewhere else." Her voice grew louder, ensuring everyone could hear her words. Each word from Karen felt like a blow to Lily's heart. Although she knew it was unjust, Lily still felt a pang as she was treated this way, right in front of others. Some parents nearby turned their heads to look, but none stepped forward to intervene. They merely watched from a distance, a few curious, but then they turned away, as if it wasn't worth interfering. Lily felt the weight of that silence, silent approval of Karen's harsh words. Her heart ached, but she knew she couldn't let herself tremble in front of Karen. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and when she opened them, she spoke with a steady but firm voice. "I'm not going anywhere." Karen was momentarily surprised by Lily's firmness, but didn't stop. She took another step forward, grabbed Lily's wrist, and pulled her to force her off the swing. Lily staggered, feeling a sharp pain in her wrist, but she tried to keep calm, refusing to show weakness. The other kids' eyes followed Lily, a mix of confusion and fear as they watched the tense standoff between her and Karen. Karen didn't relent. She pointed to the playground's gate as if it were Lily's exit. "Get out of here and don't come back," she said loudly, her voice filling the playground, drawing everyone's attention. Jake stood beside her, his head lowered, not daring to look at Lily, his hands clenched as if he wanted to say something but lacked the courage. Lily looked around, hoping to find a supportive gaze, but the adults only observed from a distance, no one saying anything. Their silence weighed heavily on Lily, as if they all agreed with Karen that she didn't belong here. But Lily still tried to hold her ground. She lifted her head, looking directly at Karen, and though her voice trembled slightly, she spoke with a firm resolve. I have the right to play here. This is everyone's playground. Karen's face reddened with anger. You don't listen, do you? If you don't leave, I'll make you go. She raised her hand as if to push Lily again, but this time Lily quickly stepped back, keeping a safe distance. She tried not to show fear, even though she felt her heart racing inside. She couldn't believe an adult would act this way toward her, but she didn't want Karen to see her weakness. Meanwhile, some of the other children began whispering to each other, looking at Lily with puzzled expressions. She could clearly feel the growing alienation in their eyes, even those who had once played with her. Lily held back tears, telling herself she couldn't let Karen see her weakness. But the silence of those around her felt like an invisible dagger, cutting deep into her heart, making her feel completely alone. Finally, unable to withstand the pressure and stares from Karen and those around her, Lily chose to step back. She slowly left the playground, walking in silence, but each step felt heavy and full of pain. She didn't leave out of fear or surrender, but because she understood that she couldn't fight this battle alone. Her heart was filled with sadness, but she reminded herself that this was not the end. Lily turned back to look at the playground one last time, a place that had once brought her so much happiness, but had now become a place of pain and injustice. As she left the playground, Lily felt a lingering ache in her heart, each step adding to the weight of loneliness and grief. She couldn't believe that a place that once gave her so much joy had turned into a place of suffering and hostility. She had tried to be strong, to hold on, but the feeling of betrayal and rejection seemed stronger than all her willpower. In her mind, Karen's words continued to echo, repeating like a reminder that she didn't belong here. Returning home, Lily felt exhausted but tried to appear normal as she walked into the house. She didn't want her parents to notice the hurt she was carrying, but despite her efforts to hide it, the sadness in her eyes and her slow steps didn't escape her mother's caring gaze. Her mother, who was in the kitchen preparing dinner, immediately sensed something was wrong. Lily, are you okay? You don't seem happy, her mother asked gently, her voice full of concern. Lily nodded slightly, trying to brush it off. I'm just a little tired, Mom. It's nothing. But that brave front quickly broke as her mother came closer, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder and asking once more, Sweetheart, what's wrong? You can tell me. Hearing her mother's warm voice, Lily felt the strong facade she had built start to crumble. Emotions she had tried so hard to bury flooded to the surface like a breaking dam. She couldn't hold back any longer. Her vision blurred, and finally, she broke down in tears. As she poured her heart out, tears streamed down her cheeks as she recounted everything to her mother. The hurtful words from Karen, the silence of those around her, and the pain of seeing Jake, her best friend, distance himself because of her skin color. Her mother listened quietly, her face shifting from worry to a mixture of anger and sadness. Gently, she stroked Lily's shoulder, offering her a sense of comfort and protection that she had been missing on the playground. When Lily described how Karen had even grabbed her wrist and pushed her off the swing, her mother's calm expression turned to visible outrage. My dear, I'm so sorry you had to go through this, her mother said, her voice choked but determined. No one has the right to treat you this way just because you're different. Your father and I won't let this pass. Lily looked up at her mother, surprised yet relieved. She hadn't expected her mother to respond so strongly, but deep inside she felt a sense of comfort she had never known. When her father came home, Lily's mother quickly called him into the living room and recounted everything. Throughout the story, her father listened quietly, his expression growing more serious, his gaze intensifying. Thomas Brooks was a calm man, but as he heard about his daughter being treated unfairly, that calm turned into a deep, silent anger. When her mother finished, her father looked directly at Lily, his voice steady but firm. Lily, you shouldn't have to endure any of this, and from now on, I won't let anyone hurt you again. Lily felt as if a huge weight had been lifted from her heart. She realized she wasn't alone, that her parents would stand by her, protect her, and help her through any challenges. The anxiety and loneliness she had felt over the past days slowly transformed into a sense of security and trust. She knew she would no longer have to face those scornful looks or cruel words alone. Her father, with the resolve and experience of a judge, quickly sprang into action. He reached out to other parents in the neighborhood, gathering information and learning more about Karen's behavior. He also decided to bring this issue to the next community meeting to make sure everyone understood what Lily had been through. Lily's parents wanted to make a change, not just for Lily, but to prevent anyone else from being treated unfairly like their daughter. Lily felt the resolve and strength from her parents flow into her, giving her courage. She knew that this time, she wouldn't be facing it alone. The painful tears had subsided, replaced by a sense of hope and determination not to back down. In the end, Lily realized that from this moment forward, this was no longer just her story, but a story for her family, for justice, and for standing up for what is right. A few days later, her father, Thomas Brooks, organized a community meeting at the neighborhood center. The goal was not only for everyone to understand what Lily had experienced, but also to demand fairness and responsibility from everyone. That afternoon, Lily walked into the meeting room with her parents. She saw the neighborhood families already gathered, some seated in rows, others standing along the walls, their faces mixed with curiosity and unease. Looking around, Lily recognized familiar faces from the playground, those who had been silent when she was driven away. Her heart raced, but she stood close to her parents, feeling their comforting presence. When the meeting began, her father stepped forward, his voice warm but firm. He started by emphasizing the importance of unity and mutual respect to build a sustainable and happy community. Then he recounted Lily's story, detailing every part of what she had endured on the playground. He left out nothing, from Karen's cold looks to her aggressive act of yanking Lily off the swing. "My daughter has suffered painful days because of discrimination, simply because of her skin color," her father said firmly. "No one, especially a child, deserves to go through that in this community." The entire room fell silent. People listened intently. Some nodded in agreement, while a few parents looked at Lily with empathy. But not everyone appeared supportive. Some looked uneasy, exchanging glances as though unwilling to confront this uncomfortable truth. Especially Karen, sitting in the back row, her face rigid, her gaze icy, though Lily could sense a hint of unease in her stiff posture. When Mr. Brooks finished speaking, a few parents stood up to speak. A young mother spoke first, her voice shaky but filled with compassion. "I'm sorry, Lily. I didn't know this was happening, and I'm sorry I didn't see how much you were hurt." Another parent, the father of a child who often played with Jake, added, "We have a responsibility to protect children from discrimination and injustice. As adults, we must set an example, and I think behaving this way is unacceptable." Gradually, more parents voiced their sympathy and support for Lily and her family. Their eyes turned to Karen, as if reminding her that they were aware of the injustice Lily had suffered. Karen's silence grew heavy as people began to realize she was the one who had fostered an atmosphere of prejudice and hostility at the playground. Finally, Karen stood up, her eyes defensive and her lips tightly pressed together. She tried to keep her composure but couldn't hide her discomfort. "I was only trying to protect my son from bad influences," she said, her voice steady but tense. "No one has the right to criticize me for protecting my child." The tension in the room was palpable. Lily's father took a deep breath, then spoke in a calm but sharp voice. "Mrs. Karen, protecting your child doesn't mean hurting others. My daughter is not a threat. She has a right to play and grow up in a fair environment, free from prejudice and judgment from adults." Mr. Brooks's words echoed throughout the room, and everyone seemed to nod in agreement. Karen had no words left to defend herself. She lowered her head, her face flushed, and quickly sat down, avoiding the gazes of those around her. Silence filled the room, but this time it was a silence laden with meaning, a full stop to the division and injustice Karen had created. The meeting concluded with a shared agreement among the parents to foster a friendly and fair environment for all the children in the neighborhood. A commitment letter would be sent to each household, highlighting the importance of respect and equality in the community. On the way home, Lily felt lighter than ever. She no longer felt she had to stand alone against the cold stares and judgment. She knew that now her parents and an entire community stood by her. A spark of hope shone in her eyes as she reflected on the meeting, and for the first time, she believed the playground would once again be a place where she could play and just be herself. She looked up at her parents, and they returned her gaze with eyes full of love and pride. With that encouragement, she felt her fears and pain gradually fade, replaced by peace and confidence. After the community meeting, Lily realized she was no longer alone. She not only had her parents, but also a community behind her, which gave her the strength to face whatever came next. A few days later, Lily decided to return to the playground she had once cherished, but that had also brought her much pain. Before going, she looked at herself in the mirror, reminding herself that she would walk into the playground with confidence and pride. No longer the timid girl who feared others' stares, but a Lily strong and confident in her worth. She smiled at her reflection, then left her room and went to the playground with her parents. The sky was clear that day, and early sunlight danced through the leaves, casting a gentle golden glow over the playground. The peaceful, open space lightened Lily's heart. As she stepped onto the playground, the parents sitting on benches chatting turned to look at her, and unlike before, they smiled warmly, with some even waving. Lily nodded in response, feeling a welcoming warmth from those who had once turned away. When she reached the familiar swing, Lily stopped and took in her surroundings, filled with hope. The children were still playing around the playground, laughter ringing out joyfully. She took a deep breath, then sat on the swing, gripping the chains, and began to sway. The familiar creak of the swing made her feel as if she were back in those innocent days, free of worry. She closed her eyes, letting the breeze brush her cheeks and hair, telling herself that this place was still hers. When she opened her eyes, Lily saw Jake standing near the climbing area, watching her from a distance with a hesitant look. He looked unsure, his hands twirling a leaf, as if he didn't know what to do next. Lily watched him for a while, remembering the times they had laughed together and shared joy on this playground. His eyes held a mix of worry and regret. Perhaps the community meeting had made Jake realize what Lily had gone through. Finally, with a bit of hesitation, Jake decided to approach Lily. He stood before her, his face red, his gaze avoiding hers in embarrassment. "Lily," he said, his voice soft but sincere. "I'm really sorry for everything. I really didn't know what to do when my mom kept telling me to stay away from you, but I didn't want to." Jake lowered his head, his voice faltering, filled with regret. Lily looked at him for a moment, remembering the heartbreaking moments when he turned away and followed his mother. She felt a pang in her heart, recalling the times she endured Jake's distance, but then she realized he was just a kid, affected by the prejudice his mother imposed. She took a deep breath, then smiled, responding, "I understand, Jake. Sometimes things aren't as simple as we think. What matters is that you're here now, apologizing." Jake looked up, his eyes sparking with hope. "So, can we still be friends?" he asked, his voice filled with anticipation. Lily thought for a moment. She felt that she had grown from everything she had been through and knew that friendship should be built on sincerity and respect. "We can," Lily replied with a gentle smile. "But this time, we have to be real friends. No one can pull us apart anymore, okay?" Jake smiled brightly, a smile that was free and light, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. "Okay, real friends," he said excitedly, then quickly ran back toward the climbing area, turning to wave for Lily to join him. Lily's heart warmed, and she felt her inner wounds gradually healing. She stepped off the swing and ran toward Jake, climbing and running as they used to, as if they had never been separated. As they played, the other kids began gathering around them. No more judging looks or avoidance. Instead, there was inclusion, inviting her to join their games. A few kids asked Lily to play tag, while others cheered as she and Jake climbed to the top of the jungle gym. The atmosphere was joyful and open, and Lily felt she truly belonged here once again. That afternoon passed in laughter and joy. Lily played with her friends without hesitation, and a sense of peace grew within her. She knew she had faced a big challenge and overcome it, not just through her own determination, but with the support of her parents and her community. They had stood up for her, and thanks to that, she felt stronger and more confident. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the playground, Lily stood by the swings, looking around the familiar scene. She no longer saw this place as one of sadness or exclusion. Everything felt renewed, a fresh start for the equality and friendliness she had reclaimed. The parents on the benches chatted with one another, occasionally glancing her way with friendly, warm eyes. When she went home, Lily walked beside her parents with a heart full of joy and gratitude. She knew that from now on, she wouldn't face unfairness and loneliness alone. Her confidence and belief in her own worth had been strengthened, and she would always remember that when she dared to stand up for herself, she could overcome any challenge, any difficulty. For the first time, Lily felt that this playground was more than just a place to play. It was a symbol of her own courage and triumph. Each time she returned, she no longer felt hesitant or fearful of others' eyes. Instead, she felt welcomed and included. The children played with her, and the parents were friendly and warm. It seemed that the community meeting and Lily's story had changed the neighborhood's outlook on unity and respect for one another. One afternoon, as Lily was swinging, she saw a familiar figure by the playground gate. It was Karen, Jake's mother. Lily felt her heart race, partly in surprise, partly because of memories of what Karen had done. Lily stopped swinging and sat still, watching her from afar, trying not to let past fears resurface. Karen no longer had the proud, cold demeanor she once had. She stood by the gate for a while, watching the playground with a tense expression. Lily noticed she didn't stride into the playground as confidently as before, but simply observed from a distance, her gaze sometimes stopping at Lily. Karen looked different. Her eyes seemed lost, and her shoulders were slightly hunched, as if she was pondering something. After a while, Karen slowly walked over to the benches, sitting in a far-off corner, unlike her usual spot with the other parents. Without her haughty air, she sat quietly, watching her son and the other children playing together, including Lily. The other parents glanced her way with indifferent eyes, no longer showing the friendliness they once did. Lily felt a mix of surprise and confusion. Though she had moved past the pain Karen caused, she still wasn't sure how to feel about her return. Deep down, Lily still harbored some pain from the past, but she also realized Karen's presence was no longer as intimidating as before. She had learned to believe in herself and no longer let harsh words affect her. Suddenly, Karen stood up and walked toward Lily. She stopped a short distance away, her gaze hesitant as if struggling with something. After a moment, Karen spoke in a low voice. "Lily, I want to apologize." She looked down, her voice shaky. "I wasn't fair to you. I let my prejudice blind me and hurt you. That was wrong." Lily was taken aback, not expecting Karen to apologize. She looked at her, no longer holding resentment, but instead feeling sympathy. Karen's apology couldn't undo the hurt she caused, but Lily could sense sincerity in her voice. Karen continued, "I've realized my mistake. Jake was very upset over what happened, and I now understand that I caused hurt to both my child and you." Lily took a deep breath, then responded gently, "Thank you for saying that. I was very hurt, but things are better now." Lily's eyes softened, and she felt an odd sense of relief. She didn't expect Karen to change completely, but at least this apology showed a small change in her heart. Karen nodded, grateful that Lily had listened and accepted her apology. She added, "I hope that from now on, we can start over. I want to create a better environment for the children, not just for Jake, but for all the kids, including you." Lily smiled. "I think everyone can start over, Mrs. Karen." Lily's words carried the maturity and forgiveness she had gained from this challenge. She felt she had truly moved past the pain and had become stronger, not just for herself, but ready to join in and forgive. From that day on, Karen began appearing at the playground regularly, but she rarely intervened in the children's play. She sat quietly on a bench, watching Jake play with his friends, and sometimes smiling when the children laughed together. The other parents gradually became more open to Karen, although not as friendly as before, but they were ready to accept her if she truly changed. The playground returned to its peaceful and joyful state. Lily, Jake, and the other children continued their favorite games, running and climbing without fear of separation or judgment. The parents sat and chatted together on the benches, no longer whispering or casting. Judging glances, the playground now seemed to glow with a new warm harmony, a place where everyone felt they belonged. To Lily, the playground was not just a place to play, but a symbol of perseverance and the ability of people to change. Every time she saw the smiles of the other children, the laughter of Jake, and the gentle eyes of her parents, she felt a true sense of peace. Lily understood that everyone could make mistakes, but if they were willing to change and face themselves, unity and empathy could heal any wound. That playground became the place where young Lily found faith not only in herself, but also in the kindness and capacity for change in those around her. She knew that although many challenges would lie ahead, she would always have the strength to overcome them, for she had learned how to fight for fairness and compassion. The experiences at the playground brought Lily not only confidence, but taught her that even things that seemed impossible to change could shift with perseverance and unity. One weekend afternoon, the playground was busier than ever. Lily sat on her familiar swing, gently swaying, and looked around at the place that had held both her joy and sorrow. She saw Jake playing tag with his friends, his laughter bright, no longer hesitant or awkward as before. Karen sat on a nearby bench, sometimes smiling as she watched her son, without the scorn or coldness of the past. She had become more reserved and kept her distance, but this change made the whole community feel more at ease. As Lily sat on the swing, her parents stood nearby, smiling at her with pride in their eyes. Her father came over and sat beside her, speaking with a voice full of pride. "Lily, you've done so well. You showed everyone your resilience and kindness, and that's truly valuable." Lily smiled back. "Thank you for always being there for me. I don't think I could have done this without you and everyone else." She looked around the playground, feeling a warmth in her heart. "I think this place is more than just a playground. It's where I learned so much." Her father nodded, his eyes showing deep emotion. "You're right, Lily. This is more than a playground. It's where you came to understand that no matter how tough it gets, justice and kindness always find a way to prevail." Lily nodded, gazing into the distance. She knew she had crossed a challenging chapter in her life and was now ready to face whatever lay ahead. Each time she felt fear or confusion, she would remember what she had overcome, the trust and love her parents and community had shown her. As the evening sunlight began to fade, casting a warm glow over the playground, Lily jumped off the swing and ran over to Jake and her friends. They laughed together, sharing their favorite games, as if nothing could divide them anymore. Lily felt that this time, the playground had truly become a place of innocence and friendship. Nearby, Lily's parents sat on the bench, watching her with joy. They understood that their daughter had not only reclaimed the playground, but had grown stronger and more resilient. They held hands, feeling pride and peace as they watched Lily, no longer facing the world alone. In that moment, Lily knew that this journey had changed not only herself, but also the community around her. People had learned to respect differences, and everyone understood that each person deserves to be treated fairly. Lily knew she would always carry the lessons from this playground, no matter where she went or what challenges lay ahead. As the afternoon quieted and the sun began to dip below the trees, a new light had sparked within Lily, bright and unwavering. This was not an end, but only the beginning of better things to come. And she knew with courage and love, she was ready for whatever lay ahead. And so, Lily's story wasn't just a journey to find joy at the playground, but a lesson in courage, the power of love, and the value of unity. Lily showed that when we stand up for what's right, we can change not only ourselves but also our communities for the better. Her journey reminds us all that everyone deserves love and respect, no matter their differences. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more meaningful stories, please subscribe to our channel. We hope to bring you more inspirational stories that help spread love and unity in life. Join us as we continue exploring new stories, touching hearts, and creating positive change together.